ever wondered what life would look like if you could live life to the fullest? If you could live an exceptional life in line with what you were purposed to do? What would life look like then? What would you do? Where would you go? How far would you push your limits? The truth is, there is a force standing in the way of you living that exceptional life, and that force is the curse of mediocrity. And in today's episode, I'm going to expose it for what it is and why it's important. I'm also going to show you what you can do to overcome this force. My name is Nathan J. Bishop, and this is Maximum Impact Unleashed. If you're living beneath your full potential, it's because you've been negatively impacted by the curse of mediocrity. So, what is the curse of mediocrity and why is it important? The curse of mediocrity is the not-so-obvious lure of society that draws individuals towards the central tendency. It is both a societal precept and an individual mindset, and it forces you to 1. Live beneath your full potential, 2. Not realize that which you are purposed to do, and 3. It prevents you from living an exceptional life. It starts off as a societal precept. Now, precepts are societal norms. It is the average or the status quo. Precepts are the norms that a society establishes and then enforces on all individuals within that society. And these precepts are based on the limitations and failures of that society. When someone says, just be realistic, they aren't really asking you to be realistic. What they are actually asking you to do is to subscribe to their version of reality, which is often based and founded on failure and their limitations. In a society, precepts are the laws of the land, and outliers, meaning those that act outside of the norms of society, will be outlawed and ostracized. So to be a functional member of society and be accepted by that society, all individuals must comply with the averages, with the norms, and with the status quo. If left unchecked, these societal precepts become the individual's mindset, which means the force that causes limitation is no longer external, but internal. And that is exactly what prevents you from living an exceptional life, living out your full potential. It is what causes you to live way beneath your full potential. What's interesting is all children are born with a curiosity to discover the world, with an imagination to conjure up infinite possibilities, and a childlike faith to believe that not only is this possible, not only can this happen, but this can happen to me. No child, after watching a superhero movie, goes outside and acts out being an extra in the movie. No. Every child who watches a superhero movie goes outside and acts out being the superhero. So when did it change? In the infant stage, every attempt where the child tries to walk and tries to speak results in failure. But society will still encourage the child because failure is seen as part of the process, a process that inevitably leads to success. When the child talks, the child looks like a drunkard. When the child tries to walk, the child looks drunker still. But society, more specifically, the child's family will encourage the child because they know that failing is a part of the process towards success. But somewhere along the line, society turns its back on the child, and words of encouragement are turned into words of discouragement, and they sound something along the lines of, stop, you cannot do it. You failed because these are your limitations. If you do it anymore, you're likely just going to get hurt. This is for your own good. Listen, just be realistic. This is how a society pushes its limitations on the individuals in that society by wrapping it up with concern and caution. When the boy grows up and tries something new and, let's for argument's sake say, the thing is difficult to do, and the child inevitably fails, society will come along with its precepts and say, hey, you need to stop because the reason you failed is this is a clear confirmation or indication of your limitations. If the boy heeds the advice of society, he will lose self-esteem and lose confidence in himself, and this will weaken his self-identity. But this will also result in him gaining confidence in his group or society, thus strengthening his identity in the society. However, if the boy, in spite of society's counsel, decides to fail again and again and again, then the inevitable will happen. The boy will eventually succeed. This will result in a boost in the boy's self-esteem, which will result in a boost in the boy's self-confidence, and this will strengthen the boy's self-identity. This will also result in the boy losing confidence in society or in his societal group, and it will result to him losing more and more of his identity within society. Here's my first bit of advice for you in this podcast episode. Study the herd and do the complete opposite. What do you think is more important to you? How you view yourself or how society views you? Your self-confidence or your confidence in society? Your self-identity or your identity within society or within a group in society? Let's explore this idea a whole lot deeper. Here are some scary but mind-blowing statistics. 50% of workers all over the world say that they find fulfillment in their jobs, which means 50% of workers don't find any fulfillment in their jobs. That is 1 in 2. According to the World Health Organization, 280 million people suffer from depression. 40% of searches online are related to pornographic searches. 45% of marriages will end in divorce. 41% of adults suffer from obesity. 30% of girls will get pregnant before the age of 20. 90% of those pregnancies will happen outside of marriage, and 25% of those pregnancies will result in an abortion. 1% of the global population suffer from substance abuse. And in case you think that number is small, that is 80 million people. But hey, this is considered normal, yeah? This is the status quo. This is what happens to the average person. This is acceptable. My friend, there is nothing normal with being normal, and it's not okay to just be okay. Leave the status quo to the average Joe. You see, societal precepts, which are the norms in society based on society's limitations and failure, will eventually manifest as an individual's limiting belief system or mindset, and that mindset is what leads individuals to steer towards the central tendency, doing what is normal, doing what is average, doing what is considered the status quo. And the status quo are all the things I just previously listed. If you heed the advice of society when they shove these precepts down your throat, you will lose confidence in yourself and gain confidence in the group identity or societal identity. Done enough times, your self-confidence will be sitting at 0% and your self-identity will be sitting at 0%. This will also result in your confidence in society sitting at 100% and your identity in society also sitting at 100%. But when the unfortunate and inevitable eventually happens, that being society is either unable or unwilling to validate you, where will you turn to now? Because there is nothing on the inside to turn to, and society has turned its back on you. So where can you turn to now? You have to stray further away from the group you have come to find your identity in, and you will turn to very harmful vices. And this is where mindlessly scrolling on social media, consuming pornographic content, and substance abuse like alcohol, nicotine, and drug abuse comes into play. And eventually, my friend, this will lead to suicide. You see, it's not that you find your identity in the group, but that you have to lose your self-identity to the group. And once your self-identity is lost, but you find that the group no longer identifies itself with you, you will be in an abyss and all alone, and that is where you will turn to harmful vices. But if in spite of the counsel you receive from society, when they shove these precepts down your throat, if in spite of this, when you try something new, if you are willing to fail again and again and again, the inevitable is likely to happen. You will succeed. And when you succeed, this will result in a boost in your self-esteem, which will result in a boost in your self-confidence, and this will strengthen your self-identity. And that, my friend, is where true leaders are born. Okay, let's make this a lot more personal. How about you? Are you living an exceptional life? What has your life looked like up until this point? Do you find pleasure in the things you have acquired over time? Are you happy with what you have done? Are you happy with what you are doing? Are you happy with the man or woman you see when you look in the mirror? Or are you in a perpetual state of wanting? Wanting more money, more time, more acknowledgement from friends and family, more recognition for your work and the things you've done. You see, it's not obvious to most people, but the complete opposite of happiness isn't sadness, but desire. Being happy or content is having the ability to say, man, this was awesome. I truly enjoyed it, but hey, I've had enough. Whereas desire is the state of saying, man, this was awesome. I really enjoyed it and I absolutely want and need more. How would you rate your physical and mental health on a scale of 1 to 10? Are you energetic and full of life? Are you careful of what you consume, what you put into your body, either through your mouth, your eyes, or your ears? Or have you let your physical and mental health slip? You see, just like nicotine, alcohol, drugs, and processed food is bad for your body, so too is mindlessly scrolling on social media and consuming pornographic content bad for your mind. You need a strong body so that you can defend yourself against other people. You need a strong mind so that you can defend yourself against yourself. Don't allow your physical and mental health to slip through the cracks. There is an older you, a much older you inside of you who is counting on you to make smart decisions now, so that later on in life, both you and that older you can benefit. How about your financial health? Let's call it you're being wealthy. How wealthy are you? Are you diligent with your earnings? Are you putting a percentage of it away so that you can one day put it to work? That way you can build a corporate ladder others work so hard to climb. Or have you given into the cravings of instant gratification? Have you given into impulse buying, Black Friday specials, and credit card spending, which is for consumer purposes? Do you live paycheck by paycheck on 100% of your paycheck, or worse, are you living on 100% of your paycheck plus interest owed to the bank because of your loans? You see, to answer these questions, to truly answer these questions takes serious courage, because to answer these questions, you've got to take a hard, long look at the man or woman in the mirror. And that's a lot harder than most think it is. And that's because once we look in the mirror, every single one of us, what we find is we are wanting. This is no reason to mope around. This is a reason to improve upon ourselves. If you are able to answer these questions, it's because you have the courage to stare, to have a long look at the man or woman in the mirror, which means you are already on the path to overcoming the curse of mediocrity. Long before we can see the beauty that can be, that life has to offer, we must first face our ugly. And man, is that ugly, ugly. Each one of us must assess and evaluate ourselves for our own sake. Because we were all born into society, we were all negatively impacted by the norms of society imposed on us by that society. Those norms which are based on the failures and the limitations of that society. No one decides to be depressed, addicted to drugs, addicted to porn, addicted to alcohol. No one chooses to live a meaningless life. No, these are the outcomes of someone negatively impacted by the curse of mediocrity. What causes this is heeding the counsel of society, succumbing to the limitations and accepting them as your own. At some points in life, we are all negatively impacted by the curse of mediocrity, but it is our responsibility to do what must be done to break free from this curse. It's ironic and unfortunate, but those most affected by the curse of mediocrity are also the ones who feel that they are totally unaffected by this curse. You hear them all the time. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 10. I'm a 10, baby. I don't need to bring anything to the table. I am that table. I'm not going to change for you. You need to love me for me. This is so unfortunate because this is the cry of someone negatively impacted by the curse of mediocrity. What they are really saying is, I'm not willing to change, not for anyone, not for you, not even for my sake. They would rather tell themselves a pleasant fiction, be that a fiction. Because facing the man or woman in the mirror, having a hard, long look at reality is far too much to bear. Friend, you are not a 10. I am not a 10. And that is because no one on God's green earth is a 10 out of 10. And thank God for it. This is not to put you down. This is not to put myself down, but to give us the maximum room for growth, meaning throughout our lives, we can exponentially grow. And that, my friend, is how we end up living an exceptional life. Let me show you why not being a 10 is what leads to living an exceptional life. If on a scale of 1 to 10, you view yourself as a 10, this means that you have no more room for growth. You cannot improve anymore because you are perfect. Now, because the only thing constant is change, because you cannot improve, you must get worse over time. Do you see why this is a bad thing? However, if on a scale of 1 to 10, you see yourself as a 1, what you are actually doing is giving yourself the maximum room for growth. That way, when you hit that 10, however you define it, you would have grown exponentially. Once you hit that 10, a smart person would now reset their number back to a 1 by setting a goal of such a high standard that they have to do the maximum to reach that new level 10. This is how you reach your full potential, and this is how you live an exceptional life. But like I said, it is both ironic and unfortunate. Those most impacted by the curse of mediocrity are also the ones who see themselves as totally unaffected. But the truth is, at some point in life, we are all negatively impacted. Here are some of the symptoms of someone negatively impacted by the curse of mediocrity. If you lack passion, if you're just going along to get along, if nothing in life ever has meaning or purpose, if we were born and we will die and that is all there is to it, if you're just working to make a living and not to make a difference, it's because you've been negatively impacted by the curse of mediocrity. If you are always settling for less, it is because you have a low self-esteem. And because you have a low self-esteem, you've lost confidence in yourself. And because you've lost confidence in yourself, you have weakened your self-identity. This has also resulted in you gaining confidence in society, thus gaining your identity in society. And that is exactly why when society hands you whatever they hand you, you feel grateful for what they've given you because society knows what's best for you. Even if it's what is considered average, well, society subscribes to the average, to what's considered normal and the status quo. If you settle for less, it is because you have been negatively impacted by the curse of mediocrity. If you resist change and always avoid challenge, it is because you have been negatively impacted. You see, while getting old is inevitable, growth is optional. In an isolated system, things always tend to go towards entropy or chaos. Growth or progress or improvement always follows intentionality. But if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. For something to change you for the better, you must embrace the challenge so that you can be changed for the better. In one way or another, at one point in time or another, we have all been negatively impacted by the curse of mediocrity. I most definitely have been impacted by this curse. But onus is on you and I to do what must be done to break free from the curse and live an exceptional life. Do you want to reach your full potential? If it is something you have to do, friend, you don't have to face the devil, but you do have to face the man or woman in the mirror. Now, the hard truth is this: it's not just unrealistic rating yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, it's also unhelpful because life does not exist on a scale of 1 to 10, but on an infinite spectrum. Things can either get infinitely better, we can call this an exceptional life, or things can get infinitely worse, and we can call this living an excruciating life. Let's start off by exploring what a life looks like where things get infinitely worse, aka living an excruciating life. If when you try something new, and for argument's sake, let's say the thing you are trying is difficult to do, you will inevitably fail. And failure will rightly point out your limitations. At this point, society will come to you with its precepts. Hey, the reason you got it wrong is because this is what shows you your limitations. And if you continue to do this thing, it is only going to result in you getting a broken heart, a broken arm, or probably you are going to die. Listen, I'm just saying this for your own good. Please stop what you are doing. If you heed the counsel of society based on their precepts and accept your limitations, you will lose confidence in yourself, thus weakening your self-identity. This will also result in you gaining confidence in society, thus strengthening your identity in society. Repeat this cycle enough times and your self-confidence will be sitting at 0%, and your self-identity will be sitting at 0%. But this will also result in your confidence in society or your group confidence sitting at 100%, and your identity in that society sitting at 100%. But when the unfortunate and inevitable event happens, when society is either unable or unwilling to validate you, where can you turn? Because now there is nothing on the inside to turn to, and society has turned its back on you. Where, oh where, pray tell, where will you turn? Now you are forced to turn not to people, not to yourself, but to harmful vices. You will subject yourself to mindlessly scrolling on social media to get a high, watching pornographic content to satisfy yourself, and ingesting toxic substances like nicotine, alcohol, and drugs to numb yourself from the pain. And when the curse of mediocrity has dealt you its final blow, the final stage is suicide. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It is not that you find your identity in the group or in society, but that you lose your identity to the group or to society. And once you've lost your identity, it's only a matter of time until you lose your life. My goal in painting this very vivid, very graphical, very horrible picture isn't to depress you, but to impress upon you that there is a force, and that force is the curse of mediocrity. And that curse is what drives individuals towards the central tendency. The central tendencies are what's considered normal, the average, and the status quo in society. And that is what leads to the unfortunate but inevitable fatal blow that the curse of mediocrity will deal you: suicide. It results in you losing your life. There's nothing normal about being normal, and it is not okay to just be okay. Leave the status quo to the average Joe. You are capable of so much more than you ever imagined possible. You can reach your full potential, and then you can exceed that. You do not have to accept your limitations. Here's what life looks like if you choose to live an exceptional life. This shouldn't be confused with a life of ecstasy. This is an exceptional life. When you try something new for the first time, and for argument's sake, let's say that something new you're doing is something difficult, you will inevitably fail. And when you fail, society will come along with its precepts and point out to you, hey, listen, I care for you. The reason you got this thing wrong is because it is pointing out your failure. And because you are failing, you are likely going to hurt yourself. You're going to result in a broken arm, a broken heart, and you might die. Please just stop. I care about you. Just be realistic. If in spite of society's advice, you do what you have determined in yourself to do and you continue to fail again and again and again, you will inevitably succeed. And when you succeed, this will result in a boost in your self-esteem, which will result in a boost in your self-confidence. And this is only going to strengthen your confidence. This will also result in you losing confidence in society or in your societal group, and it will also lead to you finding it even harder to identify yourself with that group in society, which means you are going to try things that are considered even more abnormal by society, things far harder, far more difficult to do, things society believes you could die trying. But if again you are willing to fail again and again and again, you will inevitably succeed. You see, failing at a much higher degree than most people are willing to fail at will result in you succeeding at a much higher degree than most people will ever be able to. And that, my friend, is how you end up living an exceptional life. By doing what most people won't do, you end up living a life where you get to do what most people can't do. What kind of life is it that you want to live? Let's give the devil its due. Here's where society got it right. Your failures rightly point out your limitations. But here's where society gets it so wrong. You do not have to accept those limitations. You can push them. You can break through them. You can exceed them. And in doing so, you can expand your expression of self and you can reach your full potential, live in line with what you are purposed to do, and live an exceptional life. In the next podcast episode, I'm going to be performing an autopsy on the curse of mediocrity and what you can do to live an exceptional life. It is going to be lit. If you haven't liked this episode already, please go ahead and do so. My name is Nathan J. Bishop, and this is Maximum Impact Unleashed.